This episode is going to be a bit different. It's going to be a bit of a shorter episode because I have had a bit of a testing week. I've had a weird one, and I want to sort of update you on what's been going on in my life and why I've had such a crazy week. I've had some health issues that have been overall minor. The diagnosis in the end has been very minor, but it hasn't been without its scares, and it hasn't also been without its lack of sleep and severe headache. They're the main symptoms. So I wanted to just come on and release a podcast. I've been trying to release podcast episodes every Thursday. And I know I've spoken to a few of you and you've noticed that. And so some of you have even said that you're waiting on a Thursday for the new episode. Admittedly, I have released 2 episodes a week for the last few weeks. I've just had the ability to do so. I've had some interviews and stuff that have been really cool. And I've just been raring to release them. So I didn't want to kind of wait for Thursday to come along. I wanted to just get them out. And I will be doing that moving forward. If I have enough content to double up on a week, I'll put it out, like maybe one on a Monday, one on a Thursday, but I'm always going to try and have at least one coming out every week, and that should come out on a Thursday. So with that in mind, I thought I would just jump on and do a quick monologue, a bit of a recording basically, and update you on what has been going on. If you're watching this, you'll see I have a bit of a bashed nose. And that's from last night. Something happened last night, which you'll hear about. And it's been tough. You know, I think it's weird because this year for me has been one where I've really wanted to fully ramp up and start challenging myself and pushing myself and getting up to that 100-mile distance. And I've just been raring to go. I am now self-employed. I have more time on my hands. Really, I have no excuses. I have all of the desire. I have all of the time, all of the ability to work hard on my goals. And so I want to do that whilst I can. I want to really see what I'm capable of. And I've been very keen and eager to do so. But this year hasn't been without its challenges. When I was in Egypt earlier this year, I had a pretty gnarly fall when I was just out on a training run and completely smashed my knee in. And that put me back from full volume of training for a good 3 weeks. I then had shingles, which set me back for a good while. Another few weeks not being able to get up to full volume and full training. What else happened? I DNF'd at Lone Wolf because I was just edging on working too hard on my calf and didn't want to go too far, so I pulled out, and then that gave me another kind of week or 2 of just building back up from an overworked calf. And then I sprained my ankle at Madeira. And so that ankle sprain is obviously needing to be looked after, and don't want to be just ramping up to full volume too quickly. And then this week happened. This week has been awful, to be honest. And so what happened was on Friday, so just shy of a week ago, last Friday, I woke up with a really bad headache and just completely drained. I was just a fraction of my usual self. And to the point where I even spent like 12 till 2 p.m. in bed in full ill mode. I was just completely spent. And I thought, okay, I've clearly got something here. So I've picked up something. Maybe I've overworked and I just need some rest. So I rested up for Friday. Saturday, I woke up and I still had a splitting headache. I had another bad night's sleep. I had a bad night's sleep Thursday, bad night's sleep Friday. And then Saturday I woke up, really bad headache. At this point, Lou has gone off on a little holiday with her mum. And so I'm alone at home and just feeling like I'm dealing with just a headache at this point. I've got way more energy now. Friday's over. I slept through the day. I sort of relaxed, but I had more energy on Saturday, even though I had a bad night's sleep. I felt more myself. So I went on a run. I went on an easy run. I even made a video on social media about how I'm taking it easy. I have felt under the weather. I felt unwell. So I'm going to take it easy. I wanted to make a point of it. So I went on a really easy run where I was running. I was even, breaking into walks and all that sort of stuff. I really thought I was looking after myself. Saturday night, I had another pretty dotted sleep. I still had this headache. It's been quite hot here in the UK, in London. When it's hot in the UK, it doesn't tend to cool down in the evenings. In other hot countries, it sometimes you'll find the evenings are actually quite nice and cool. Here in the UK, if it's warm, it's warm, and it can even be, it's going to be fairly uncomfortable sort of temperature in the evening as well. At least not what I'm used to, And so, I run quite hot, so I need to have my room be quite cool in the evenings to sleep well. So I got the window wide open. I'm trying to sleep, but it's not happening. I'm tossing and turning with this headache. And I wake up on Sunday, and again, I feel like I'm getting better, or at least nothing's getting worse, and whatever's happening to me, I can deal with. So I decide, and again, remember, I'm trying to ramp up here. I don't want to miss my training. I want to start putting real training in. I don't want to miss out on, I don't want to be set back again from my efforts. So I went on an hour and a half sort of medium run on Sunday, and I felt fine. I honestly, I felt pretty fine. Throughout the day, I'm medicating. I am dealing with my headache. It's there, but it's not terrible. Sunday night, I have another pretty bad night's sleep. And to be honest, the headache just gets really bad in the evenings after a day, in the sun maybe. And it's really bad in the morning as well, and through the night, of course. So Sunday night, I have another bad night's sleep. Monday, I wake up. I decide I'll go on a little run. So I went on another little run on Monday. And then it's just the same story, to be honest, day by day. Tuesday comes along, and at this point, I am feeling worse now. So I've gone downhill. So clearly, I'm trying to really look after myself. I'm taking electrolytes in. I'm drinking water. I'm eating as well as I possibly can. I'm having a really balanced diet. To be honest, I eat as well as I can all the time, but I'm really trying to care properly about that because I'm ill. And so I think I'm looking after myself. I think the only thing that arguably I shouldn't have been doing was actually running. I should have done nothing. I should have just waited until I was better, but I don't always want to do that. I want to, you're not always going to feel 100% every time you go out and train. You might feel 60%. You might feel 70%. But, you've got to make that call yourself, and it's difficult to always make the right call. And I certainly don't always make the right call, clearly. So I probably shouldn't have been running as much as I did. I probably prolonged these symptoms, whatever it is. And at this point, it's the 5th day of having these symptoms, of having a fever, of, at night, I probably didn't mention, but I'm sweating a lot, but I'm also quite cold. I'm not managing my temperature. My body's core temperature is not normal. And so I'm sweating, so I'm losing a lot of electrolytes losing a lot of salts as I sweat at night, and I'm probably not hydrating as much as I could do although I'm taking electrolytes in the morning and I'm trying to drink water. I probably am missing quite a lot and am not replenishing as well as I possibly could. But I felt ultimately like fine. I just had this headache, and I tell you what, this headache has been the most persistent headache and most severe headache I've had for ever, I think. I don't think, I'm not a headache kind of person. I'm not a migraine person. Lucky for me. I don't deal with these things often, so it's sort of uncharted territory. I don't really know what it feels like to have to deal with that sort of stuff, and all my sympathy goes out to those people. If you deal with migraines, if you deal with any sort of headaches commonly, I feel bad for you, because it sucks, and it has sucked for the last week. So day 5, I try and book a GP appointment. It's made to be, slightly more difficult than it needs to be in the UK. So I'm pretty reluctant to ever go see the GP, just because usually I end up seeing the GP and they say, give it a few weeks, and if it gets worse, come back. And you've been through a whole process of trying to book the appointment. You get the appointment, and then they tell you to come back, give us a call in a few weeks. Like, it's not that easy. There we go, a little mini rant there about seeing GPs in the UK. But I did put a form in to my GP, or I thought I did, and then I didn't get anything back. Next day comes along, so this is yesterday now. Day 6, I wake up with a severe headache again, and I'm just like, I need to do something about this. I'm functional though, I'm not bedridden, I'm functional. I go out to the park, I do a bit of a mobility session out in the park. I work on my laptop from the park, hot spotting. And I called the GP, and I managed to book in an appointment that afternoon. So I go in to see the GP yesterday afternoon, and everything's tested. Blood pressure is tested, that's normal. Tested in my ear for an infection, that's normal. But I do have an extremely high temperature. I've got a real fever. So I think my temperature was, it was like 38, 39 degrees Celsius. So really, it's not okay in that sense. And especially 5+ days after initial symptoms, having a fever, that's a red flag, according to my doctor. And so I have a conversation with my doctor, and he says, look, we are dealing with the unknown here. Ultimately, we do need to get blood tests, and we need to get a bit of a CT scan maybe. And we can't do that here, so I need to ask you to go to A&E. And he talks to me about the possible diagnoses. Obviously, we don't go too far down the rabbit hole, but one of the worst case scenarios is meningitis. And now meningitis is, you have either bacterial meningitis or you have viral meningitis. Bacterial meningitis is really bad. You don't want that. That can be fatal, and can be a really horrible thing. It's very unlikely that I have, at this point, it's very unlikely that I had bacterial meningitis. It was pretty clear that was going to be, that's not the case here. But we were trying to discount viral meningitis. We were just trying to, act on the safe side. I was fairly confident it wasn't anything serious, but I would say that on my cycle over to the GP, I felt really sensitive on my neck and my whole spine as well, like the muscles on my spine. I just felt really delicate. Every bump as I was cycling my line bike, every bump over the road, I was just really sensitive. I just felt delicate. And to be completely honest, my head was saying, you've got something here. This isn't just some normal thing. You're not okay. Like this could be a real thing. So in my head, I'm trying to act very rational, and of course, we don't know anything yet, so I'm just saying, okay, fine. But of course, there are the ideas of potentially some form of meningitis. Potentially with a CT scan, we're going to find out whether there's some sort of issue going on in the head. Worst case scenario is something like a brain bleed, like a hemorrhage or something. But we need to just make sure that it's not that, and we need to get to the bottom of what's going on, right? So I go home from the GP. I go via home to A&E. And here's where it gets mad. This is where we pick up on... This is where you find out where I've got this bash on my nose. I am packing my bag. I'm getting a few bits together because, if you go to A&E, usually it can take hours. It will take hours. Sometimes it can take really quite a long time if the hospital's busy. So, you're prepping for worst case scenario. I obviously also don't know what's happening with me. So I don't know whether they're going to, worst case scenario stuff is that you stay at the hospital for a long time, you're overnight at hospital, all that sort of stuff. I still don't know what's happening. And because these ideas of worst case scenarios are planted in your head, you're like, all right, I need to just pack everything. So I'm packing my bag, and I get this sudden flush of this fever rush where I suddenly feel really hot and dizzy and nauseous. And I sit down just over there on this sofa over here. I sit down and I'm like, whoa. And then I start breathing really heavily. I'm like, and then I start feeling really nauseous. And I'm like, I need to get to the bathroom. I'm going to puke. And so I stand up and I start heading towards the bathroom. And on my way to the bathroom, I black out. And I wake up almost what feels to me like immediately. I wake up and come to, and I'm on the floor in the corridor. I don't really know where I am, but I realize I'm on the floor in the corridor. I unstick my face from the floor. My face is just planted on the floor, and I am in a deep sleep. I feel like I'm waking up from a deep sleep. As I wake up, I feel like I've just been sleeping, right? But I wake up and I realize I'm on the floor. I'm like, what's going on? And I've got this puddle of blood next to me, like a big puddle of blood on the floor next to me. And I've collapsed. I've fully collapsed at home alone. Fully face planted. And we're not talking knees first, face plant. I've just gone from standing straight to a full kadoosh on the floor, chin down on my chest, just kadoosh on the floor. And I get up and there's blood all over the floor. My nose is bleeding, and I'm like, what the heck is going on, man? This is insane. And I get up and I go to the bathroom. And I look at myself in the mirror, and I've just got blood all over my face. I'm a mess. I'm pale. I got blood all over my face. My nose is bashed in. Looked way worse than this. Somehow it's healed. Yeah, it's healed decent. But it looked way worse than this. I was not okay. I was in a bad state. And obviously with all of these pre-diagnosis sort of ideas of what this issue that I've been having for the last 6 days could be, I'm thinking I've just collapsed at home. Worst case scenario stuff starts feeling more real. You start thinking, have I got a thing here? Have I got a real issue here? Has my life just temporarily changed? What's going to happen? So I'm like, right, and I'm in pretty good spirits. I feel fine, by the way. After I collapsed, I feel like I've almost got the fever flush out my system. Like I just needed a good lie down. But instead of just lying on my bed, I decided to just collapse on the corridor floor. But I'm fine. I think I was probably out for about a minute. But I was fully concussed and. Or not concussed, sorry. I don't think I was concussed. I think I fainted. So I was fully out. But yeah, so I'm at this point, I'm like, right, I need to get my stuff together and go to A&E. So I order a cab, I go to A&E, and I will try and make the next part of the story short, but I basically see the nurse, I see the doctor, I get my bloods done, I get a CT scan, and then I finally see the doctor after all the results come in, and massive relief. Everything is fine. My blood work's great. He says everything's normal. There's something's abnormal, but that's just because there's a sign that there's some sort of viral thing going on I'm dealing with. I'm clearly ill, and that is showing that, but everything else is fine. There's nothing untoward. Everything's normal. So blood work's good. CT scan is completely clear. Nothing to be concerned about. Showing no signs of anything to be concerned about. So that's good as well. No sign of infection. Just nothing. So good. Right. Sweet. I'm healthy for the most part. I'm good. There's nothing serious going on. So I've gone through this whole drama of collapsing at home and feeling like this 6-day headache is going to actually transpire to be something serious. And it's not. It's not serious. It's probably, I've just basically picked up a virus. I've not allowed myself to recover properly. I have tried to listen to my body, but I've actually listened to my desires to work out more than I have actually listened to my body. So I think I've prolonged it by running. I then have probably, funnily enough, yesterday was actually the only day I didn't take in electrolytes and I didn't drink that much. But I was out in the sun for the morning. So I probably was dehydrated, and with 4 or 5 nights of terrible sleep, I was probably just exhausted, dehydrated, and for whatever reason, I fainted. And that can happen. But still now I'm looking at that, I'm thinking that's weird, but it can happen. And it was all made to feel far more dramatic because I didn't just faint and not damage myself. I fainted and bashed my face, and there was blood all over the floor, and it was just made to feel way more dramatic than it needed to be. And ultimately, I'm fine. But I did want to come on and just tell you why I haven't really been able to put a proper podcast out. I was going to sit here and I was going to do listener questions. I was going to do a bit of an episode on something, a solo episode. But, I thought I'd just update you and give you a bit of an update on Tommy and see, and just keep you looped in. I will say that the whole experience, although it's transpired to be nothing, it did get me thinking, It did get me thinking. And I am someone who, I'm such a big advocate for looking after yourself, for taking care of yourself, for listening to your body, to making sure you're not overtraining. I think most elites would try and avoid overtraining more than they would avoid undertraining. Overtraining is something that a lot of us struggle with. And that overtraining can be quite literally just doing too much. Or it can be doing a normal amount when your body's not ready, when your body is incapable of doing a normal amount. And the thing is about this, and I'm going to talk very honestly now, I have 11,000 followers on Strava. And I very occasionally get messages from usually unsolicited advice from people telling me how I should be training based on what they see from my training on Strava. And Strava doesn't give the full picture. So firstly, they should know that. So I'm not always tracking my strength training. I'm not always tracking every run I do if it's like a workout. Like a hill hill sprints or something, I'm not always tracking everything, but like most stuff I'm usually pressing buttons on my watch, but it's not all fully being tracked. Regardless of that, there is an element of, trying to make sure I'm showing people that I am working hard and I'm training hard. There's also an element of actually wanting to train and work hard and be the best. And that comes from two places. That comes from me wanting to be the best. It comes from me genuinely really wanting to be my physical best, to perform at my best, to be a good athlete. I love this stuff. I love the endeavor of trying to perform well. It's a hobby and it's a real interest, and I would hate to get to 50, 60 years old and look back on my 30s and think, I could have tried harder, I want to do my best and be proud of my efforts and achievements. But also, I think there is something that I think maybe can be a bit of a takeaway for you, and that is that there's a lot on social media, and I probably spend too much time on social media. There's a lot on there that is inspiring. It is hugely motivating. It makes you really want to go and achieve these great things. Cocodona 250 recently it's documented so well. Aravai puts on such a good show. And it really makes you believe you've got these ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and it makes you believe that anything's possible if you just put your mind to it. And you see other people that you respect in the sport who are doing such great things. You see them achieve amazing feats of endurance and maybe get certain marathon times and stuff like this, and you're like, I want to do that as well. I want to feel the way they feel. I want to get that. I want to feel proud of my achievements, all this sort of stuff. So there is an over bombardment of people achieving great things on social media. And when you don't feel like you're performing at your best, when you don't feel like you are very capable, and after the first half of this year, I have had a few setbacks and I don't feel like things are necessarily going completely my way. I have fallen over a few times. I've had shingles. I've had this. I've had, sprained ankle. I've had these things that have got in the way of me being at my best. When that's happening, you just feel even more desperate to just get the training in. And so I think that's what's happened this weekend. This weekend, when I was training, I think I wasn't willing to listen to my body. I think a lot of other times I'm willing to listen to my body. If it's occasional, if I only have to listen to my body occasionally, like I'm only very occasionally I've got a slight niggle in my calf and I need to listen to my body, like that feels like normal stuff. But when you seemingly every few weeks you feel like you've got setback after setback, like once a month or something, you're like, there comes a time where you lose patience and you just want to test your limits a bit more and just stand a little bit closer to the edge. And I think that's what I did this week, and I want to be open about it. I want to tell you that this is what happens. You can find yourself face on the floor, coming out of unconsciousness with a puddle of blood next to you, alone at home, having bashed your face in because you have collapsed at home. Because you essentially didn't look after yourself. Because that's what happened to me. And through that whole experience, I have been given a great life lesson. And the second thing I have learnt from this whole experience, and something in a weird way I sort of want everyone to experience in the same way that I have, in the sense that nothing that's happened to me has been serious. I can genuinely am and was yesterday on the taxi ride to the hospital. I was on the phone to Lou laughing about having just collapsed on the floor, because it is still quite funny, even if you can see the funny side. Even if it was serious, I could still see the funny side of just absolutely flooring it. But that's just the way I wired, I guess. I do want people to go through this experience in some way of just having some sort of scare, some sort of medical scare, which ends up being nothing, but going through the process of having a medical professional tell you that this could potentially be this, and this, and actually feeling like scared that it actually could be. That really gives you this reflection. It really lets you reflect on the fact that, the time you have is finite, and it could be taken from you, like in a split second. You could. I'm not saying any of this really felt very real to me. I didn't feel like I definitely was going to have like bacterial meningitis or something like that, or I was still unclear on whether I had something serious going on in my head. The headache has been very severe, and it's, the pain is crawling down my spine. It wasn't completely unrealistic to imagine I had a hemorrhage or something, and that idea in my head was obviously very scary. And it gets you in this heightened state of reflection and emotion, where you consider how lucky you are. You consider how much you love life, how much you love it, and how much this just all feels like a crazy experience. I don't know, how can I explain it? We endlessly go through life day to day worrying about the to-do list. We worry about the consequences of doing or not doing stuff. We worry about how other people perceive us. We worry about whether we, are going to do certain things right, or if we have done certain things right, or whether we're reaching perfection with this and that. Or we just worry a lot. We sort of concern ourselves with a lot of stuff that's not worth concerning ourselves with. And then we get a health scare, and it's all put into perspective a little bit. And my friend Dean messaged me with a quote. He said, it makes me think of the quote. Yeah, here we go. It makes me think of the line, a rich man wants 1,000 things. A sick man only wants one. Yeah. So there we go. That's all I have for you today. I hope you are well. I really hope you're looking after yourself. I hope that you're prioritizing your overall health and your well-being over performance. And I hope you have some perspective. I hope that you are able to retain that perspective and know that there are things far more important than how well you do at the next race, or how other people perceive your Strava stats, or whatever, man. Because, you don't want to face plant the floor at home alone on a Wednesday afternoon. Okay. We'll be back next week with a proper episode, which will be less about me and more about running. But for now, run the runnable. Keep showing up for yourself, and I'll see you next time.